This is Daryo and I'm Tawney. We're here at the EBRD in Tashkent, and joining us is Odile Renaud-Basso, President of the EBRD. Odile, thank you so much for coming.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you.
And you've had a very busy couple of days all around the region, and now it coincidentally coincides with the Tashkent International Investors Forum. Can you give a little bit of a comment on how your experience has been here so far?
No, very interesting experience, very dense, because there is a lot of people, a lot of opportunities to have bilateral meetings and so forth. So I participated this morning to the inaugural session, the big panel, and I think it's a very good opportunity and good event to showcase the transformation Uzbekistan is going through, for the President to present the reform agenda, what is vision of Uzbekistan, what is key priorities, so as to give visibility to investors and for them to understand where the country is going, what are the opportunities, how can they invest in this country for mutual benefits. But I think that's, and there is a lot of interest and a lot of people.
Yes, there is a lot. I was just there myself, and an incredible amount of people. And you had your talks yesterday with the President. Can you give some insights into what was discussed there?
No, I think what we discussed was the priorities, how EBRD can support the reform agenda of the President, in which sector we should focus our attention and our investment. It's always good to take stock of where we are. Uzbekistan is a very important country for EBRD. It's one of the top 6 countries of investment, and we have been investing in the last years between $700–800 million a year, so which is a very substantive amount. And a large part of it is in the private sector, 70% in the private sector, and 70% also in the green sector. So we with the President, we discussed which priority, what are his plan, and we also supported a number of reforms. So not only with financing, but also technical cooperation to develop reform agenda, for example, for privatization, or the upcoming law on subsoil mining, or we are working a lot also on capital market development. So we are very much involved in this also policy agenda, helping and working with the government in order to see what is the best framework for the economic success of the country.
And the most recent for privatization is the assistance with Asaka Bank, correct?
Yes, so we just signed with Deputy Prime Minister Kruger the heads of term, which is a principal agreement on how we can support the transformation of the bank towards privatization with change of governance, transformation of the bank itself, and possible IPO, pre-privatization investment, and this is something we've been doing in a number of countries, and it's a big transformation for the bank, for the country, but it will create more opportunity of financing for the private sector, small businesses, and etc. Oh yeah, it's also a way to open up, because the financing of the bank will be it will increase its capacity to finance SMEs. But it's very important to have a strong, solid, transparent banking sector to finance the real economy and to be able to finance the SMEs which need financing for development.
Yes, and from what I see, I recently had an interview with the Swiss ambassador, and they're working with the central bank as well to train the staff there on correct protocol and how to really work with the, what's the word, transparency, yes. Yeah. Have you seen the changes over these last few years going in a positive trend?
Yes, we've seen a lot of reform. EBRD restarted to invest in 2017, and we've seen a lot of change. Of course, you always, challenges always take time, and reform always face challenges, but we see very good example of reform. One sector which is changing very quickly, for example, is the energy sector, with this very big ambition in renewable, and we see that accelerating, and it attracts a lot of private investors from international market that are willing to develop, and it's very good for the country because it develops the potential, natural potential, which is solar, wind, and really create cheap energy, cheap electricity, and it will facilitate the development of the country because it can attract manufacturing. It's a key element of competitiveness now. So, for example, there is a big transformation going in this sector, which is very visible.
And diversifying it is key because they cannot rely on gas and coal forever.
Yes, and it's a way also to ensure energy security, because renewable is something which is on your ground. It's your so you are not depending from external suppliers. So I think it's a very strong component that now everybody realizes what happened on energy in the last few years, and also it will be because climate change and is becoming such a big issue. It will become having green, cheap energy, renewable energy, will become a big source of competitiveness. And Uzbekistan is very advanced in this respect, with a big ambitious, developing 25% gigawatt by 2030. But also we start to finance battery storage, working on green hydrogen. So the country is very at the forefront of these evolutions. And
it would be another advantage if they wish to trade with Europe, because of the taxes that are going to be implemented.
Exactly, because of CBAM, so the cross-border adjustment mechanism. If you have renewable energy, you will not be subject to CBAM. So competitiveness will be very important with that source of energy,
especially for this region.
Yeah.
So, what measures are the EBRD taking to facilitate to help with investor confidence here in Uzbekistan?
So I think the fact that we invest so much in the country in various sectors and is a sign of confidence, and it helps building confidence for foreign investors, because when we give examples of successful investment in the country, so we are meeting a lot with foreign investors, and we can make the story, make the case, showcase of what we've been doing in Uzbekistan. And there are a lot of work which is also being done on improving the regulatory environment. And in that sense, the Foreign Investment Council that will take place tomorrow, to the FIC, we created with the Uzbek authorities this framework 2 years ago. I think it's a third meeting. And it's a very important format in order to be able to discuss directly and openly between foreign investors, being able to talk to the highest authority in the country, with the President Mirziyoyev, on what they see as key priorities, what are the challenges, what are the obstacles, so as to find concrete and practical solutions to give more comfort to foreign investors and increase their appetite for investing in this country.
Yes, because a lot of them of course, they have worries because of emerging markets generally being quite risky to invest in. So it's comforting to know that we have these frameworks in place to support them.
And that's why also the role of a bank like EBRD, so to act also as a co-investor, to share the risk, to help them finding the right framework, the right counterparties.
So there's been a lot of discussion about the Middle Corridor and what it can do for the region, and also with logistics and trade flows from China to Europe. What do you have in mind on how the Middle Corridor can impact the region and Uzbekistan in particular?
So I think it's a very important project, or multiple projects. It's more a sort of strategy, because it's a very big endeavor. But it's in the new geopolitical environment in which we live, it's very important to develop connectivity with Europe, and it cannot go through Russia anymore. So it really alternative corridor needs to be developed, and that's where comes this corridor. And so for us, it's a very strategic, important ambition, and we are working in all the countries that participate to this corridor. We are developing. We have been doing a big study with the support of the EU to assess the different opportunities and the different options, and this is a help. This really helps guiding what are the most needed investment, where are the bottlenecks, and so forth. And so we have committed to invest 1.5 billion in the few next years in supporting some key infrastructure in this corridor. It's very important, I think, to enhance the connectivity in the region and between the region, Caucasus, and Europe. So for us, it's a big strategic project. We are one of the. I mean, needs to be much more participant, and it's a very large number of projects. But I think it's an important element.
You just talked about opportunities. Could you perhaps mention some of them that you think would be key that Uzbekistan in particular should perhaps take advantage of with the middle corridor?
No, I think enhancing the capacity to export. So Uzbekistan, for example, developing green energy with quite a strong manufacturing base, but still is a landlocked country with needs to enhance its connectivity. So if the country develop connectivity and capacity to export to Europe or to the region, this will be very positive for economic development.
And not merely be just a transit with goods from China going through.
No, it could also. I mean, of course, it's. Yeah. And for example, there is a lot of mining potential here. Big mining companies, big potential, and you know that minerals are very important for the green transition, for solar panel, wind turbine, and so forth. So this is a huge asset for the country, and developing. And for export, and so then you need to develop the channel for export. So that's why I think it's important, not only as a sort of corridor between China and Europe, but also for the benefit of the country itself.
And it would also help with the massive population they have here to create jobs and
exactly
all of that opportunity. It kind of folds over. So what is the EBRD's long-term vision for the partnership with Uzbekistan?
I mean, we see Uzbekistan as a very strategic country for us, very important in Central Asia. It's the largest with the largest population, very dynamic demographic growth. So we see a lot of potential, and as I was saying, the reform agenda, the vision for the country has been developed by the president the last few years, and it gives us a big, number of investment opportunities, and also, capacity to help investors to come in or to showcase the attractiveness of this country for investment. I think the regional role of Uzbekistan is also very positive, with enhanced cooperation among Central Asian countries. They have common challenges, so different countries, different history, but also a lot of commonalities, common challenges, energy, water, infrastructure. So working together is a very important dimension, and I think the quality of the cooperation has increased very substantially in the last few years.
Oh, I agree 100%, especially since 2017. Uzbekistan has opened up a lot, not only to the world, but to its regional neighbors, which was key, having those dynamics in place. We've seen C5+1 meetings, and most recently the B5+1, and hopefully some more C5s coming in the future.
Yeah, and I think the cooperation is at political level and also on concrete projects. There is I was struck, I was coming back I was in Tajikistan at the beginning of the week, and traveling to Uzbekistan. There were Minister of Kazakhstan, Energy Minister of Kazakhstan. Here we have Kyrgyz. So a lot of cooperation concrete cooperation on projects in the region.
And the one question I wanted to ask was, we touched a bit on the private sector. And how do you see the role of the private sector in the reforms, in the country growing?
So I see, and the EBRD is very much focusing on the private sector. 70% of the investment we are doing here are in the private sector, as I said. And we believe, to create jobs, you need the private sector, and in particular you need small businesses, because this is where the job creation is the most dynamic. And that's why we, first of all, focus a lot of our support to the private sector, so with international companies, foreign investors, but also through the banking system to support small businesses, women businesses, young people creating their business, agriculture,
the Star Venture program.
Star Venture program. So we are really trying to look at all the different segments of and the typology of entrepreneurs in order to be able to provide them with some appropriate financing. And that's why also we very much support privatization and transformation of this banking system and so forth, because the more you leave room for the private sector, the more it will have the capacity to grow, to develop, to be competitive, and to be innovative, and that's very important for the dynamic of the country.
Oh yes, having more diversity within the economy, more diversity in SMEs and banking as well, really helps with the competitive angle. And just touching on the women in business, you yourself are a woman in quite a high position. What words do you have, if any, for young girls and women in the region? How can we motivate them to understand their potential?
I think that they should, be ambitious, really want to participate to the life of the country and engage, and don't hesitate to take initiative and to take risk. I think that the agenda to support women in this country is important. I had a meeting in London with the chairwoman of the Senate, Zabaya, and very interesting. And I've seen now that there is some change in the regulation to facilitate women in business. So I really believe that women have a very important role to play in this country, and they have many opportunities, and they should not hesitate to seize them.
They should definitely take advantage of what's been made available right now.
Exactly. And they have a lot to offer.
Oh, I agree. They're all incredibly capable. Most of them are multilingual and incredibly well educated.
And I'm very proud, we have Uzbek staff in the bank, and we have very strong women from Uzbekistan, very capable, very energetic, very committed, and so for bringing a lot to the bank.
And here's hoping we get even more.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.